reading today is Mark chapter 9, verses 30 to 37. Leaving there, they went through Galilee. He didn't want anyone to know their whereabouts, for he wanted to teach his disciples. He told them, "The Son of Man is about to be betrayed to some people who want nothing to do with God. They will murder him. 3 days after his murder, he will rise alive." They didn't know what he was talking about, but were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum. When he was safe at home, he asked them, "What were you discussing on the road?" The silence was deafening. They had begun arguing with one another over who among them was greatest. He sat down and summoned the 12. "So you want first place? Then take last place. Be the servant of all." He put a child in the middle of the room. Then, cradling the little one in his arms, he said, "Whoever embraces one of these children as I do embraces me, and far more than me, God who sent me."
Now this morning you have to endure some grandchildren stories. See, Michael can do it, Wayne can do it, so I'm going to get my links in, because I want you to know about Silas, Esther, and Peter William. Silas is 5. I went to see him, and he said, "Papa, let's play Milborn." You know, Milborn is a card game. It's kind of like a road trip in a car, and it has cards like flat tire and out of gas, and if you get that card, that means you can't play. Silas' way of playing is, first of all, you sit on the floor. Now, this is a problem. But I'm down there, and you turn all the cards over, then you flip them up, find all of that kind of card, and give them to Papa. He missed one. I found one, I flipped it up, and I gave it to him. And he said, "You can't do that." I said, "How come you can give it to me and I can't give it to you?" And he went, "Dumb." Busted. And then there's Esther, who sits me down on the floor again. And, trying to bend all those bones in behind the coffee table. And she says, "Papa, I want to play a game. It's called Puppies and Persons. I'm the person, you're the puppy." And then there's Peter William. We go out on the way to Dairy Queen, and I decide I'm going to chase him. So I haul out, "I'll race you there." Now, if you want to see a joke, it's me racing Peter William, who is now 11. Because it ain't going to happen. I can keep up with him at the pace that he sets, but he must increase and I must decrease. And he gets me running up to the top of a hill, and then he says, "Now, Papa, roll down the other side." And I thought, Papa rocks, but he don't roll. That's not happening here. I went on a trip. It's 800 kilometers. We do it 4 times a year, but if you're going to be part of your grandchildren's lives, you got to be there. Some of you would love to be there, I know. I take advantage of the opportunities I have. Because if I'm going to be any part of their spiritual formation, I need to be there where the kids are. What I discover when I get there is that the kids are the ones who extend the hospitality to me. "Come on in, Papa, let's do what I'm doing. Come on in, Papa, let me show you my trombone. Come on in, Papa." There's all kinds of things. And it's as free and unforced as anything. The scripture we've got this morning, the disciples had just been on the Mount of Transfiguration and seen Jesus in his glory and said, "I get it. Let's build some temples and stay here." Jesus takes them down the mountain, and there's an argument going on over somebody who can't cast out a demon. And finally, Jesus says, "This is taking too much time." Casts out the demon, and the disciples say, "How come we couldn't do it?" And Jesus' prayer boy's prayer. They carry on from there, and they carry on to the place where Jesus is able to start teaching them, which is why he doesn't want to be sidetracked. And he says to them, as Rob read this morning, down from the mountain, he says to them, I need to teach you about the cross. Son of Man is going to be crucified and rise the third day. He's going to be delivered in the hands of people who do with him whatever they want. And the disciples at that point say, I don't get it. There's the framework. I get it. I don't get it. But they were afraid to ask. You see, there's a song, a chorus, that I hear sung in churches. We don't sing it that much here, but you probably heard it. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. I want to see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. We sing that in church, and I often wonder, which part of lifted up are you thinking about when you think about the glory? Because one is lifted up onto a throne, the other is lifted up onto a cross. And quite honestly, Jesus Christ got them both covered, and there is not one without the other. But I have a feeling that some people would like to say, give us the power and the glory, could we skip the cross? Which is the same thing that comes here. And the I don't get it part runs as a stream through all of this, and it's carried forward all the way from the Old Testament. And even in the life of the prophet Isaiah, when he was called, God called him by saying, I want you to do something amongst the people who are called mine. I want you to prophesy so that they'll see it and not believe it, not get it. Why? Why? What is it that we don't get? How can I be in the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus, and there's Moses and Elijah down to the bottom of the mountain, and there's Jesus telling me about the cross, and I don't get it. Same Jesus, different message. How come I talk about Jesus to the people at work or to my relatives and they don't get it? What are they, stupid? I make perfect sense to me. Why doesn't it make perfect sense to them? Or is it perhaps, like Jesus said to Peter, who came up with this, I know who you are. Jesus had asked, who do people say I am? He said, you're the Christ, aren't you? You're the Son of the living God. And he said to him, you didn't get that from flesh and blood. Not anybody else's flesh and blood. You didn't get it from your own flesh and blood. My Father in heaven revealed that to you, Peter, or you wouldn't get it. Nobody gets this. Nobody gets this. This is the wisdom that comes from above that you don't get. God shows you. How does that happen? So they carry on from there, and they come to Capernaum. Now there's chit-chat that goes on the road with Jesus, and you don't get filled in on it. But there are a cluster of disciples that are talking about which of them is the greatest. And, how do you hide that? That's a conversation that's been going on quite a bit. I don't know whether it was, I'm the greatest, I'm going to rule over you, or whether it was, Jesus loves you more than me, that kind of false humility sort of thing, so you're greater than I am, and whatever. But Jesus says to them, what were you talking about? Nothing. There's a time when you realize, shut up. If it was wrong, then it's wrong. Now shut up. Nothing. So he summoned the 12, which is an essential part of the teaching of Jesus. That's the whole point to this. I got to get this across to you. There's a few things you've got to understand. One of them is the cross and the resurrection. And here's the second one. You want first place, then take the last place and be the servant of all. I don't get it. I don't get it. Where do you want to jump in here, Jesus? I don't get it. Want first place. Okay, then take the last place. Okay, what is that? Be the servant of all. The word servant is doulos. Let me tell you a story about going to Cambodia. I went to Cambodia to visit my daughter once, and I was taken to visit an area along the Mekong River where Vietnamese were sort of ghettoized. Vietnamese are hated there, and there's a reason for it. These people lived, we have no idea what a ghetto is. Bamboo and cardboard about the size of a telephone booth, two of them together, that was a home. So crushed in together that the soil you walk in is so utterly contaminated, you can't walk in the house without washing your shoes. We were taken to the home of a pastor and his wife, and they had 2 whole rooms to live in, normal-sized rooms. And as I'm walking into the small yard, the pastor's wife takes my shoes and starts to wash my shoes. And I've got a problem. I hate being in that country and being treated like the great white father that came from somewhere far away and deserves treatment like he was enthroned. Let me wash your shoes. Let me wash my own shoes. No, I'm going to wash your shoes. It turns you inside out when somebody that you want somehow to show the deepest respect. And you can't do it, but she can. Servant of all. Jesus washed the disciples' feet and said to them, I've washed your feet. You want to wash one another's feet? And I can hear him calculating, okay, that's one of me and 11 of them. I guess I can do that. But now we're talking about being a servant of all. How far does all go? I don't get it. And guess what else? I'm afraid to ask. I don't want to know the answer to that question. The cross is happening to you, Jesus, but this you're now talking about happening to me, to be the servant of all. And I know how it goes. If I try to be the servant of all, and I serve once, and then I bask in the glow of the adulation that comes, I'm only moving farther away from you, aren't I? I can't sort that out. How do you even get there, Jesus? I was afraid to ask. Then he put a child in the middle of the room. And cradling the little one in his arms, he said, whoever embraces one of these children as I do embraces me, and far more than me, God who sent me. Now, we could go on a great length about children and become quite sentimental, couldn't we? But any parent here, particularly a mother, understands full well that children are nothing but a bundle of demands and needs that unfold, and it takes 20 years minimum. And there's no promises. I live in a culture that looks at children and says, promise me you'll be a redhead. Promise me you won't be a redhead. Promise me you won't have fetal alcohol syndrome. Promise me you won't be artistic. Promise me you won't be gay. Promise me you won't be this. You can't talk. I'll find a way to discover what you can and can't do, and then we'll decide about you, won't we? We'll decide afterwards. Promise me you'll be quiet or you can't come in this restaurant. Promise me you won't be disruptive. You can't live in this community or in this building. Promise me... Please don't talk to me about the inherent value of human life. I'll show you the newspaper. And that does include babies face down on a beach in the Mediterranean. But it also includes street urchins in Latin America and all kinds of places. I don't think children are sentimental at all. And I don't think they were sentimental in Jesus' day either. Because these were street urchins. These are the poor. They wouldn't have been anywhere near Jesus or on the road. These are not kids who go to school. And the servant that he describes here is not the diakonos who teaches them in the class, the slave who has an exalted teaching position and teaches in a rich man's house. This is the guy that cleans the diapers, washes the shoes, and yells at the kids because they're in the way. You be the servant. You be the servant. How far does this go? I'm afraid to ask. Cradling the little one in his arms, he said, whoever embraces one of these children as I do embraces me, and far more than me, God who sent me. And in the next paragraph, he will extend it say this. Basically, let me tell you what I mean when I say the word children. If somebody comes who is so utterly new to the faith, or even doesn't even know about the faith, but wants somehow to follow and can't say the right words, can't get it right, but is in there trying with all their might, they're just like a child among you, and if you accept them, you accept me. You reject them, I don't care if they can't recite the right verses. I don't care if they can't recite the right creed. I don't care what they're a member of or not a member of. You just threw me out with them. Seriously? Yeah, that's what he said. And what does service look like, Jesus? Oh, I could do with a cup of cold water, like Wayne gave me. But if I give a cup of cold water, where does it go from there? And that's a question he never answers for us, because that's a question of faith. The only thing he tells me is this, and it's over and over repeated in the Bible. If you step into this and allow yourself to become vulnerable in this way, I will show up. I will be with you. I will supply out of my riches and glory in Christ Jesus. But you're going to have to trust me on that one. Who is sufficient for these things? Are you serious? Really? I got a call a while ago from a young man who said to me, I'm coming off addictions, I'm in another city, and I'm coming back trying to reunite with my family, and I can't know where to live. He knows me. I have an extra bedroom. And I say, yes, you can stay till the end of the month. And somebody else is in that bedroom. But that's an empty bedroom. What if he needed my bed? And I slept on the couch. Well, we haven't gone that far yet. That's how far the cup of cold water went in that case. But every one of them presses me. Doesn't it press you? How far do you go? If you read from the bottom up, starting with this, it's as though Jesus said, you still don't get it, do you? Okay, here's a kid. Can you embrace this kid, as rambunctious as he is? And I can hear them probably saying, well, yeah, I guess I can. Fine. That's what service starts to look like. And if you enter into that, and we back up through this, you'll discover that being servant of all, you will not perish. And if you discover that, you will discover why I did. And the cross will mean something to you beyond forgiveness of your personal sins. It will implicate you in your personal service. Wow. The radical hospitality of Jesus Christ that puts us out of the line and continually asks us if we can get our arms around maybe just one more at the table is the gospel. That is the cross. Because that's God. And when you get that, you get Jesus. When you get Jesus, you get God. It's that simple. It's just not that easy. Let me tell you a story again from Cambodia, and then I'm done. There's a woman from the church that I served who with her husband went to serve in Africa, then they went to serve Cambodians in France, and finally were deployed to Cambodia, where ultimately he died in a tragic swimming accident. And she was about retirement age, at the point at which the agency that sent her said, come home. She said, to what? So she retired in Cambodia, where you can live like a queen on a Canada pension plan. She had discovered in the retiring years of her service that as she visited in hospitals, the place was full of AIDS victims. Husbands who had contracted AIDS and given it to their wives. So there was a mom and a dad who were dying, and they didn't know from what. And there were kids in the hospital running all over the place, running around, cared for by nobody. And the nurses would come to her and say to her, of this child or that child, if you don't do something, they'll kill this child. I'm passing no judgment on that. That's what they said. She began to collect these children into sort of an ad hoc orphanage. That grew into a ministry. I visited her, it's got to be 10 years ago now, and stayed in her home. And there was one little guy that she had just brought in to actually live with her, rather than in some of the houses and homes that she was creating out in the countryside, for collections of these kids that would never have anything but a street life if she didn't do something. The little guy was Mian. Mian was born under those circumstances. He knew two words. One was money, one was meat. Can you figure out why? Meat is what you need to survive. And meat was his word for anything. Meat was a carrot. Meat was a piece of bread. Meat was a piece of meat. And money was what got you meat. That's the universe. And suddenly he's brought into a home. He's about 3 years old, where he can only say two words, but the meat shows up without the money. And there is a whole cluster of people around who don't hit him, throw him out, threaten him, or yell at him. And where he has a bed and where he is washed. What is this, heaven? And in walks one day something he hasn't encountered. And that is a man who doesn't yell at him, hit him, or throw him out. That's me. Not that I'm that good. I'm a dad. I don't do that. I'm a Christian. I don't do that. But he's never seen a male who's like that. He's seen females. He's surrounded by women who care for him. But he's never seen a man. After lunch, we go in and I lie down on the bed. I've asked if I can have a bit of a snooze because, frankly, the heat in Phnom Penh and jet lag is laying me out. So I go in and lay down and the door opens. I hear little feet. And up onto the bed hops Mian, who, like any kid with his background, figures he owns the place. Like my grandson. And he hops up in the bed to just look at me. And I can sense what's going on in him. Who are you? What are you? What do I do with you? Do you do anything with me? So I sat up on the bed, and here's this little blob of a kid looking at me, who, by the way, will be dead within a year. For the things that coursed in his veins at birth. And he looked at me. I know what's in his veins from birth. And he has a candy in his mouth. And I'm looking at him, and he looks at me, and he took out his candy and threw it in my mouth, just like that. And I thought, they tell me you don't get HIV through saliva. It better be true. Because the radical hospitality of God just took me over. This little kid doesn't understand a word I say, and it reminded me that before the gospel is felt, it's better off not telt. Let it be felt first and then telt. Let this kid feel what Jesus is like and eat what Jesus is like before he gets filled up with words. But let the words come in their season. The radical hospitality of God just took me over, as it will you and me if we're following him. And Jesus said, why don't you trust me on this one? And that's his word to us all.